Last session of the day, besides our closing wrap up, is our Living with LHON panel. And this is a panel that was started back in 2014, and it is the first panel that I moderated at the first conference I was involved in. And it was such a success that we've been doing it ever since. And in some conferences, we actually have 2 sessions with Living with LHON stories. But wherever we can fit it in, we'll at least have one. And these panels are filled with people who have different perspectives from wherever they are in the LHON world. They could be affected folks, they could be moms of affected, they could be dads of affected, they could be affected parents, they could be spouses of affected, they can be children of affected parents. I've had as young as 14 on the panel, and older folks in their 70s that have been affected later in life on the panels. It comes from all range of full spectrum of where people fall in the LHON world. And if you go on YouTube, there are 11 years now of recorded sessions of Living with LHON stories. And I've been told by folks time and time again that when they first become affected and they're Googling LHON, conference videos do pop up and they find the Living with LHON panel recordings and they binge watch them like a Netflix series. So, and just to know that there are people out there just like them and their thoughts and feelings are valid and they're not alone in what they've just maybe come into. And I'm sure some of you who are fairly new, if you've seen these sessions recorded, and you watch these stories and you realize there's other people out there that are going through exactly what I'm going through now. Maybe they've been affected 10 years, maybe 1 year, maybe 40 years, but their stories are all relatively the same, but very different because they're very personal. So today I have 4 folks up here who have graciously said they would share their story, willing to tell it like it is. They've been warned that it's all recorded and will be put out on YouTube for the whole world to listen to. So it's up to them what they share. But I hope that you enjoy this as much as everyone's enjoyed these sessions in the past. And so it is my honor to moderate once again this session. And I'm going to first introduce Tim Johnson, who's going to share his LHON story.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tim Johnson. Came in from Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been affected. Okay. Been affected just over 3 years. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, Beaverton, Oregon. If you hopefully get my phone number, swapsies, you'll see that 503. I went to school at Pepperdine University, Southern California. Dragged my wife to Central Illinois, Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. Great place. And then, New York City for 8 years and then Charlotte for 5. Had my first kid in son Henry in New Jersey, up north. My daughter, Charlotte, no relation, in Charlotte, in 2021. But it all started on a random Tuesday. Some guy told me that should be the name of my book. No, I woke up, I worked all night on a Monday night. I was an actuary, but hope to be an actuary for about 11, 12 years. That's the life insurance field. And very technical, computer modeling, risk management, that sort of thing. I worked all night, 10, 11 p.m. on a Monday, working for a reinsurance company in Charlotte. That's insurance for insurance companies. And closed my laptop, went to bed, 10, 11, maybe midnight, woke up, drove to my office downtown. Called Uptown Charlotte, 15 minutes away, parked, got my office, and boom, couldn't read my computer. And I was just thinking about that this morning, like at some point in that 6-hour sleep or 8 hours in between, going to bed at midnight and then sitting foot in that office 8 a.m. Couldn't see, right? But my brother was affected a year and a half prior on the West Coast in Portland. So I kind of knew what it was. I'll let him tell the story, but so I won't get into that. So I had like the easiest diagnosis story of all time. I told my boss something's wrong with my eyes. I gotta go, and I go to the optometrist, the eye doctor, for the first time in my life. Like literally perfect vision my whole life, no contacts, glasses. And I go in and just tell him like, hey, I have labors. Can you confirm it? And he was like, what are you like? It's like going to urgent care and saying, I have cancer. Can you treat me? It was like, so he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but read the first letter with your right eye. And I couldn't, right? But the left eye still had 20/10 perfect vision. It was crazy. What I mean? So they took the other test. I had never had my eyes dilated, the whole deal. Never. Not once in my life. Now I just, do it on a Tuesday night to feel alive. But I get called back the next day from a retina specialist. He'd seen one or two people, whatever it may be. He calls me back. One of those, it's serious, but I already knew what it was from family history. And he kind of told me what he knew. To his credit, at the end, all right, we'll see you in a little bit, and got all solemn, took a knee, and took a couple breaths and said, "You're gonna go blind, man." And I was like, "Thank you, but thanks for the warning," and I left. But that was on May 24, 2022. I know that because that was the day before my 9th wedding anniversary. So it's just, kind of a bummer. But a week later in Portland, across the country, my dad, my hero in life, he passed away. So that's a pretty tough week, and so I came back from his passing, his funeral, and I turned that week into a bad month and a bad year. I just gotta let it ride. Came back to, my job, fairly high pace, finance, insurance. I couldn't see, I didn't know what I was going to see on a daily basis. Telling my boss, great guy, he's like, "What can you do today, tomorrow?" I said, "I don't know." It was pretty quick that they said, "Well, if you don't know what you can't do, we're paying you to do your job 100%." Sounds like a health issue. And I like to say that it's all happened to me at the height of my career. A year or two prior, I probably, I was on partner track this job. I was doing very well. And then last past year, I did not go blind at the height of my career. I went blind as I was doing poorly at my job. So I really didn't have that much, which is kind of tough to say, but I didn't have that much leeway. So he said, "You're probably going on short-term disability." And that's kind of, beginning the end in a way. Great short-term disability. One of the scariest moments of my life is when someone's like, "Well, make sure your long-term disability is active." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me." But I was very, very lucky that it was included. 60% of my salary. It's pretty cut and dry with my the levels my eyes were at. And that was it for that job. Pretty much forever from that point. Stayed at home, and slowly just got worse and worse. I kept driving for about 7 months, until I crashed my car. So when you hear words like acceptance and all that was not in my vocab at the time. But I kept going. I mean, I feel bad for Chris and Eric and anyone from Charlotte who was driving next to a blind guy or legitimately. But I quit seeing people. I quit answering their calls and calling people. Quit texting people. Slowly kept answering text messages. Slowly started. Wouldn't get bed at 9 a.m. Then wouldn't get up at 10. Stayed in bed till 2 p.m. or till my wife threw something at me. It was bad. It was bad. It just kept getting worse and worse. I had no inkling, no chance, no desire to get better. It's funny, this is called living with LHON. I can assure you I was dying with LHON at age 33, 2 young kids and the rest of the house, my wife who loves me. Guaranteed it was slow or sometimes quickly, but it was as bad as it gets. To say it's depressed is an understatement. You know what I'm talking about. It's feeling a little bit worse than that. And it wasn't until I got, desperate enough, truly desperate enough to want to even try to start to maybe think about changing and doing something that I finally got, had the chance to get a little bit better. It's remarkable, that it coincided exactly with this conference being in Charlotte 2 years ago. Absolutely incredible. So my wife said, more or less an ultimatum, you got to go to this thing. I said, all right, fine. And I went, and lo and behold, it's just, a lot of people like me. What an incredible thing. I mean, how many, I was that guy, and how many people I've met recently, either last conference, this conference, said I've never met someone with LHON until now. You're the first person. I said that to some people. And just to hear the stories, hear their lives, hear the way they struggled with, how they did it, what they're doing. If I close my eyes, I can still picture, I can't really see, but I can picture the living with LHON panel from 4 years ago. I know the 2 of them are here, right? Or 3. it's just incredible. Something I took with me for the whole year. Um, and so, you know, it all started to change really when I just started to listen. It's simple as that. The only thing I'll brag about is that I started to listen to people. I got so low that I would really try anything. But listen to stories of you guys, listen to people in my life that I had any inkling that maybe they had a little bit more of their life figured out than I did. And and then just took the smallest amount of action. I mean, I'd gone so far that I just really couldn't really like accomplish much and couldn't really do anything. So I just started doing something. You know what I mean? Whether I was finally getting out of bed before noon, I'm not kidding. Like small baby steps. Then it was 10, 9, 8. You know, one of my friends, one of my mentors who wasn't working at the time, very successful guy, told me to get to 4:45 every day. And I was like, he didn't tell me to do it. But I said I had a chance to either, you know, not work and live a life like I'm not doing anything or try something new. It took me a while to get to that point, but started doing things like that. You know, I have it on my phone. I checked this morning on August of 2023. I just randomly was like, I'm gonna see how many push-ups I can do. You know, this is good coming from our last talk. I don't know why. That was a terrible idea, but I did. So I got down and I did 2 push-ups, right? I weighed 70 pounds, 80, 70, 75 pounds more than I would do right now. And I put that down in my notes. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get to 5. And and then I said that was tough, so I'll just try to get 25. That sounds like a good number, 25 in a day. And I did that. Woke up the next day like I'd done like a CrossFit workout. It's unbelievable. Like it and it was, and for some reason, no one has seen my list. No one can audit it. No one can be impressed by it. But I just started doing it every day for the last 2 years. And it was just, all right, I'll do. I looked at it, it says 25, 25, 40, 50. Then there's a lot more. How many steps were I taking? You know, I got a little walking pad that was 4 miles an hour. Like everything that Evan was talking about, I'm just like, as long as I start doing something, that's what I did. So I started walking, and then I found a hill, I started running. And then I started listening. Some guy told me go to these F3 workouts. It's a bunch of guys who get up at workout at 5:30 in the morning around Charlotte. And I walked there at 5 a.m. Said, fine, I'll go. And did it, got destroyed. And I got a ride back. And this guy on a Monday was like, I'll pick you up a Wednesday. And I was like, no, you're not. And he's like, all right, I'll come get you Monday. And again, I was like, okay. And I went again. And these 2 guys have picked me up every Monday and Wednesday and Friday for a year and a half. People doing things for me that I didn't expect they would want to do, you know. People doing for me what I could not do for myself. You know what I mean? Some of the biggest things that happened to me was I just started listening to people telling me to do things. You know, you don't get self-esteem unless you do esteemable things. I was like, okay, I listened to that one. That's pretty good. So he, you know, I got volunteered at church at my men's group to stand at the door and greet people. And I was like, I can't do that. Don't you know I'm blind? Like, what are you talking about? I can't sit there and greet people. He said, you can't. Yes, you can. And so he said, you know, stick your hand out, say your name, say good morning, good evening, whichever meeting it was. Tell them your name until they remember it or you remember them. I did that for 2 months straight, and it was the single most powerful thing that ever happened to me. You know, from just getting over the fear of not knowing who someone was or how to recognize someone, whatever it may be, to like logistically being able to recognize someone's shape, someone's gait, someone's voice, the confidence to not care if someone didn't know who I was or I didn't know who someone was, etc. He told me, all right, you're in charge of donuts the next week for a month. And I said, dude, you picked me up for this thing. What do you mean I'm in charge of donuts? And he said, you'll figure it out. And so I did. I don't know. I pre-ordered, you know, pickup at a Dunkin' near his house so he could pick me up and come pick me up. I mean, it's like these things. Again, I was a 33-year-old professional in the financial world, but I had lost so much confidence, so much ability to do anything like that. But it really wasn't until, you know, one of these magical words that changed my life, and that was gratitude. Someone told me you should start to be thankful for something. And I said, I don't know, that's going a little too far. And and he was like, what do I need to be? What should I be thankful for? You know, do you know what's going on in my life? And he said, start simple. You know, start by saying thank you to your wife for driving you somewhere. You know, the next time you have a good meal, say thank you. The next time that, you know, someone picks you up for something, say thank you, and it worked. I wasn't thankful for a new day or to be alive yet. Took a little more time, but I was thankful for when my long-term disability check came in, right? Like, and then I was thankful that I wasn't a bum in my own house anymore, sleeping till 2 p.m. I was thankful that I got out of bed. And then now I'm in Cleveland, and I'm thankful for this conference, and I have 150 people that I can be friends with. I can get phone numbers. And then thankful for how much better my health is than it's ever been in my entire life. So I was doing the math. I'm a math major, transitive property, whatever it may be. Man, I guess I'm thankful for LHON, I guess I'm thankful that I went blind. And it was a perspective shift that I didn't, never could have imagined, never could have dreamed of, but it came true in my life. Switching the perspective on things, a lot of times speaking with some of the guys in my groups or my mentor, whatever it may be, and I feel like I haven't accomplished a lot in a month, a week, a year. And he's like, tell me what you did, because it sounds like you were a good dad, good husband. You did the dishes. You loved your kids. You called a guy. You volunteered at church. You woke up and worked out at 5:30 in the morning. It's pretty good, What a perspective change. And so now I firmly believe that I see what I'm supposed to see. What else do I go for? We were at Disney World last month. My kids, we're at Animal Kingdom on the safari ride. We're coming out of like one of the little narrow tunnels, whatever, and you kind of open up to the big safari landscape, and there's oohs and ahs, giraffes, elephants, zebras, rhinos, hippos, ostrich, whatever, warthog, and everyone's going nuts, and I can't see a thing, right? I can see the landscape, can't even see the giraffe, which is, ridiculous. They're not really moving, so it's kind of ridiculous, but eventually saw the elephant, we drove past the zebra, but I can't see a thing. And it was totally like it's kind of laughable, but it's also like, what do I do with that? I look down and I see my kids and they're smiling and they're laughing, pointing, and there's, Daddy, look at the giraffe. So I believe I see what I'm supposed to see, I didn't know if I'd be able to see my, my kid's face again, whatever it may be. But I can, right when they're right next to me. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, And it's because I want to, my story is just one of hope, It's because it was given to me by people around me, and so I've hope for every day, and the only way I get to keep it is if I give it away, So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Tim, I mean, amazing. I'm all choked up over here because I'm a mom and now my grandma, and it is, I loved the story about that. And you live through the joy you feel from your kids. You live through the squeals and the laughter through your kids. You can't see what they see. You can't see what they're doing. You can't see the little Spider-Man outfit they're wearing, but they are Spider-Man. They have told you they are Spider-Man. You're like, yes, you are. And you feel the joy and the happiness. And you also feel their sadness and their, when they're frustrated, all that. But you're so much more in tune with that. And that's how you know and you love your kids. I just can't say enough. Obviously, I'll stop. That's not my story. But Tim, thank you so much for sharing all that. And I do want to say that there's some folks in here who feel like their life is at ground level because they've been diagnosed with LHON. Like Tim, he rebuilt himself one brick, one step at a time. And many people have done that in this room. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story, Tim. Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Bracho. I probably butchered that, but Bracho from Canada. So it's an international panel today. Please tell your story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer. I live in Montreal, Canada. I'm a mom of 2 sons. So first, I'd just like to say that I'm truly honored to be here to share my story with everybody. Last year was my first LHON conference in the US, and it was really life-changing for me. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who actually got it, understood me, and, LHON is not something that everybody is aware of or familiar with. So it was just so surreal to be around everybody like me. Uh, I, I, my story goes something like this. I was diagnosed with LHON in July of 2020. But like many of you, my journey started months before that. It was in the month of December, close to the holiday period, where I started noticing something strange in one of my eyes as I was putting on my makeup. I couldn't see clearly, but you know, the hustle and bustle of getting out of the house was crazy, hectic period. I didn't make much of it. I kind of just brushed it off. And then in January, the problem persisted. At the time, I was working for the Research Institute of the McGill University Health Center. I had a colleague who was an ophthalmologist and ran some tests, and everything came back clear. That was in January. Then in March, the world shut down with COVID. So there we were in the middle of a world pandemic. My ophthalmologist, despite the lockdown, my ophthalmologist colleague agreed to see me and ran more tests. Still no answers. I was admitted into the hospital under neurology for was supposed to be just a couple of days. Again, we're still in a global pandemic, so extreme lockdown, quarantine, no visitors. It was just supposed to be a couple of days. It turned into 16 days. Had MRIs, PET scans, lumbar punctures, plasma exchange, countless blood tests, all kinds of things. Still no answers. All my tests were coming back clear. There were a couple of theories. One of the theories was that it could be psychosomatic. At the time, my marriage was falling apart. It was a very stressful period. You know, the pain was really unbearable. And, you know, I really thought maybe I was causing this to myself, and it really was all in my head. So I was released from the hospital with no clear answer, no clear diagnosis. So I kind of went with that. I said to myself, you know, it's very possible. I leaned into holistic, you know, healing, and I got really into meditation and yoga and mindfulness and all those kinds of things. I had stopped working at the time. I was on short-term disability, so I really had all the time to focus on that, just my spirit, healing my spirit and healing my mind. And that's what I did daily. And then one day I got a call from my neurologist who told me that genetic testing confirmed that I had LHON, Leber's. It was totally bittersweet. I was relieved to have finally a diagnosis, but then grief when he told me that, you know, there was no real treatment or cure. He referred me back to my ophthalmologist, more specialists. But to be quite honest, for me, I wasn't really processing anything. It was just all so overwhelming for me. I didn't really know, you know, what was going on and what he was talking about. At the time, my husband had left. And, you know, for me, I just thought, I'm here, okay, I need to deal with this. You know, I was there in the middle of a global pandemic, you know, just trying to stay afloat and trying to sort of figure things out. I, I, I said to myself, okay, you know, I've always kind of been a problem solver, troubleshooter. So I didn't really think, okay, there's no cure. I just thought, okay, something inside me kicked in. I don't know if I guess it was survival mode. And I said to myself, okay, I got to take care of my home, my two sons, you know, get them fed. I mean, they were teenagers at the time, 15 and 17. You know, keep the household running, laundry, groceries. You know, how was I going to do all of that? I really had no vision, literally and figuratively. So thankfully, I did have a lot of overwhelming love and support from my loving parents, my brother, my childhood friends. You know, everybody just pitched in, and, you know, from making meals and just helping out with chores, and just everybody, you know, coming forward and doing whatever they could to support me. And again, I just want to remind everybody we were in a pandemic, so it was really that scary period where you don't really know, you're sort of living day by day. Eventually, I got a call from Vision Rehabilitation Center, who wanted to, you know, have me sort of register and and see them. But I resisted, I was getting through each day, every day I would go to bed and thank God and the universe that I was getting through each day, and I got to live another day and get through it. So I didn't think, I said to myself, what is vision rehab anyway? Didn't know anybody that was visually impaired, blind. I didn't know what rehabilitation, I couldn't even imagine what kind of rehab they would give me. So then one day a kind, really nice social worker called me and she convinced me to go. And it was the best decision I ever made because that center changed my life. From the minute I walked in, I felt supported and just, accepted. And I was assigned a home and care specialist, technology, somebody who trained me on technology, an orientation and mobility specialist, and also a social worker. So I learned so many things. I learned how to basically label my appliances with bump dots. I learned how to just basically get around in my neighborhood, get to different places, or even just take a walk with my dog or alone even, in all kinds of climate. Because, I live in Canada, Montreal, we have kind of snowy weather, and we did all that every day. And, that specialist would show up even despite any type of temperature or weather. I got extensive technology training, so I didn't think I would ever be able to send an email or text somebody, or, I wanted to keep on top of things with my kids and their teachers and schoolwork and all that kind of things. And, I felt really, more and more autonomous as each week went by. And every week I was more and more capable. And I learned so much and just felt more and more empowered as the weeks went by. Until finally I graduated, so to speak. I really didn't want to let them go. I held on for dear life until as much as I could, but the idea was for them to make me autonomous so I could be on my own. And so I did. Finally, I got weaned off of the center, and I continued to rebuild my life in the years that followed. I started going back to the gym and working out. I walk to the gym by myself and back, and I train. I work out. I continued on my spiritual journey. I continue with my meditation, yoga, and just my mindfulness. It's helped me a great deal. One of the things, surprising things that I've done as well is I've joined a dragon boat team, which is actually has been an incredible experience. The team is actually composed of, visually impaired and blind people. So it's a para team, and the other half are sighted volunteers, which are just an amazing group of people. And it's really been such an enriching and fulfilling experience for me. Um, I've met incredible people. I've made a lot of new connections. I had a volunteer who actually became a confidant and a friend, and I consider her a member of my family. She's really become a very special person in my life. Um, I've even started dating again, which was very scary for me, just, at any age. And then with a vision impairment, even worse. I was very self-conscious and scared even, like who would want to date me, and who would want to date a person that has visually impairment? How is that going to work? How would I tell them? But I've been on, really nice dates and had, every conversation I must say has gone really well. I was on a date with somebody who disclosed he had a hearing impairment. So that was really cool. And, we had a really laugh about that and bonded over things like that. And I actually was even in a very loving relationship with somebody post my divorce, which lasted over a year. And it was a wonderful experience. I discovered new activities. We did kayaking together in a double kayak, and we snowshoed, we skated, we rode my tandem bike together, which was amazing and lots of fun, by the way. And, even though the relationship ended, it really reminded me that love and connection are still possible despite my disability. So I really, kind of got a little boost after that. And I felt like, I was relieved and just so much more hopeful about life. And yes, of course, LHON changed everything in my life, but not all change is bad. You know, I've made some incredible connections along the way. I've just been open to new things, new activities, just things that I probably would have never done or been open to if I still had my vision. It's just made me get a whole different other perspective in life. And it's been incredible. It's really been just so fulfilling and wonderful. And of course, yes, I worry. I worry all the time. I'm a mom. I worry especially about my kids, my boys, now 20 and 22. But I know that, you know, even if, you know, I pray for a cure and I still hope for a cure, I follow research on, you know, therapies, gene therapy and treatments all the time very closely. I've gotten more involved in different initiatives. But I know that even if my vision never comes back, that I can still live a very full life and I can still be very happy and at peace. So I just like to leave you with one thought today, and that is something that somebody at the Vision Rehab Center said to me, and that is, you know, having a disability doesn't make you limited. It just means that you have a different ability, and I wouldn't change a thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was amazing. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. And I love how you threw in that you're back on the dating scene and it's going well. It's going well. She's a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. She has a beautiful heart. I've gotten to know Jennifer since last conference. We've kept in touch. And I love that you touched on that because I've heard even at this conference that there are folks out there who are visually impaired, blind, who feel like, how am I going to find someone? How am I going to find someone special? Who's going to want to be with me because I'm visually impaired? And, you know, as you're finding that people aren't afraid of that because you're really you. You really are you. And that's a good person is going to look for that. That visual impairment, they're going to look right through it. And I think, you know, everyone will find their person. They do find their person. Julie mentioned it yesterday on a session. She found her person. I wish you tons of luck on the dating scene. I love it. So you got to keep me in the loop on that, girl. We got to talk about that. So anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for all of that wonderful wisdom and how life has come for you today after being diagnosed. Thank you, Jennifer. Our next speaker is Greg Herron. And Greg, tell us your LH1 story.
Well, it's going to be a tough group to follow. Man, guys, that was fantastic. And as far as finding your person, I found my person out there who drugged me here. This was my 10-year anniversary of losing my vision. It was this summer in 2015, first time to come this summer. And I'll jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to come back. I actually worked with about 100 blind people in Indianapolis, and you people are the first people I've ever met with LHON. So I really feel special to be part of a pretty cool group. So thank you, Maria, for inviting me to speak. So I won't go through, you know, we all kind of went through, those that are affected, kind of went through the same process of your vision starts to act funny. You're like, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Go to the optometrist, you get your glasses. They change them, and then that still doesn't work. Go to the ophthalmologist. So I kind of just skipped through a lot of that. The funny thing for me is it was June of 2015, I was getting married. I kind of spoiled the alert. There's a girlfriend out there now. But, you know, we were about to blend a family of 5 small kids, 13, 12, 11, twin 7-year-olds. The 13 and twin 7-year-olds are my boys. And it's like 2 weeks before, I was a national sales director at a biotech company at the time, doing a lot of driving. It was actually in Denver, Colorado. I'm getting lost in the Rockies. I knew something was wrong. On our way to our wedding, you know, we got to go separate. You can't see the bride, the dev. I drive, I get lost trying to find it. But the ophthalmologist said, hey, go ahead and go on your honeymoon. Don't worry about it. You know, we'll figure it out when you get back. So we're in the Mayan Riviera in Mexico. It's July 2015. You know, my eyes been doing the things where they would flash in, flash out, flash in, flash out. Well, in Mexico, the right eye flashed out and didn't come back. So we're a little panicked. You know, we're in Mexico. What are we going to do? Well, we're just going to wait and get back. We get back to the ophthalmologist, and you keep going through all the tests like you're supposed to, you know, doing the MRIs, CAT scans, all those things you guys all know about. And he's stumped. He goes, well, let's get you to a neuro-ophthalmologist. Well, by that time, you know, it takes a while to get in these specialists. It was probably about August, September. Left eye has not gone out. Well, now we're really panicked. And the neuro-ophthalmologist is sending us to, you know, more MRIs. He put me on, you know, that week-long steroid infusion where you take the drip for a week. You guys remember that Nick Nolte mugshot with the hair going everywhere? It's 2 in the morning one night, and I'm calling my wife, who we're now married, at 3 in the morning, and I'm like, babe, I'm like 2 miles from home. I'm lost. Can you please come find me? Not happy. So as you can tell, this honeymoon period is really getting started off well. So we get to the neuro-ophthalmologist, finally comes to us, and it was in October. He normally tell you the test results over the phone. And he goes, we need you to come in. And I'm like, I'm still at work. I'm still fighting through work. Even though I can't see my computer, gave up driving, can't see my phone. And he said, we need you to come in. It was October. He looked at us and said, guys, it's LHON. And you know the whole story. It's not coming back. You have to sit there and cry for an hour. My parents were actually in the waiting room because they knew something was bad too. Neuro-ophthalmologists aren't the most caring people, very, very scientific. And my wife was she was pretty tough. And she looks at him and goes, what do we do now? And he goes, do you want to keep working or are we on disability? I'm like, that's it? That's the question? And so we want to keep, well, I didn't say it. The wife said he wants to keep working. So it's like, okay, Indiana voc rehab. So we immediately started going down that path. I'm completely falling apart now. Deeply depressed. I got all these young kids. My kids, I had joint custody, lived 40 minutes away, actively involved in sports and band. I can't get to them anymore. Can't drive. Faces are long gone. The whole thing. And I'm starting to fall apart. But we start going to Easter Seals for assistive technology training, and then Bosma, I should say, about a little bit, just trying to get her feedback on the ground. Now, here's where it starts to get really fun. Now, remember, I am really spiraling now, and I'm deeply depressed. I'm sitting in the basement, dark room, staring at the ceiling, can't move, don't want to move, still fighting my way to go to work. Thank God I worked for a small family business that was very supportive, hung in there with me. Otherwise, I would have lost my job. There's no doubt about it. And remember the fireside chat we had yesterday? So here's the part I want to kind of share with you. And Marie's already told me this is going to be on YouTube. Yeah. But close in a circle know this. As we're really falling apart, my wife is kind enough to send me on a 72-hour involuntary vacation to the local psych ward, where I was diagnosed as trauma-induced bipolar to go right along with it. So, mental illness and blindness it's highly correlated. And so all of a sudden, we're about 8, 9, 10 months into our marriage. Wife is now married to someone who's blind, drinking way too much, bipolar, clearly hit the jackpot with me. And clearly you can now see why I have a girlfriend out there and not a wife, but now I'm gonna try and switch around the positive stuff. And it's 8, 9 years now after the disaster period. And there are 3 main things I feel like got me here today. One, you guys out there. What I mean by that are the spouses, the boyfriends, the girlfriends, the moms, the dads, the kids, the family, the church. And I'll talk a little about that in a minute. Second was Bosma Enterprises, which is where I work now. And then third, crazy enough, is a city bus. So going back, never taken the bus before till you lose your vision. But going back to you guys, what was so cool is no matter how much of a jerk I was going through all this, we look at it sometimes as selfish, just say, well, I'm affected. I'm the one that's blind. Woe is me. You guys went through it too. You went through it with us. You hung in there with us. Despite the crap I'm putting my wife through at the time, my kids through, family through, still going through it, she insisted that I did not give up. We did things like post-vision loss. We went hiking. We went and hiked glaciers and volcanoes in Iceland twice. Swam in hot springs. We went open sea kayaking off the coast of Maine. Went whitewater rafting. Again, I'm freshly blind. But what I learned is if you can't see it, then it makes it a whole lot easier not to be scared by it. But I even started I did for the very first time in my life, I did stand-up comedy at an impromptu night in Indianapolis, big comedy show. And my routine was called Stories from the Bus. So you can see where the city bus is coming from. But it's just the point that you guys out there hung in there with me, people like me that go through this. You guys are part of the story as well. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you guys for that. And thank my parents and friends and family for doing that. Second part was Bosma Enterprises. Bosma is third largest agency under the National Industries of the Blind umbrella, NIB. Some of you may be familiar with that, but it is an organization, nonprofit in Indianapolis. And when I did my O&M training, I did it through BOSMA. They're the ones that showed me how to use a cane. And when I walked in the door with wife at the time, 200 employees, half of us are blind. I'm now employed there. And just seeing these people coming in every day and kicking butt and just saying they were so inspirational. I said, you know, one of these days I'm going to work here. The main mission of BOSMA is to employ, empower, and offer free rehabilitation services to Hoosiers who are blind and visually impaired. The rehabilitation program literally is 16 weeks long. If you're out of the county, we'll literally put you up in a hotel, food stipend, whole thing on us, absolutely free of charge. It's an amazing organization. I've been a project manager now for about 7 years. Once I got my feet back on the ground, I started chasing them, annoying them, and calling VPs and president, or president's also blind, and finally got a job there. And they're my peeps, and they're just so unbelievably inspirational. You know, I'm back and talk about the mental health component. You know, again, blindness and mental health, highly correlated. Remember me. Also other cognitive disorders, cognitive disabilities, physical disabilities. And we have a lot of people like that. One of our biggest workers, toughest, baddest woman of a worker, totally blind and totally deaf, and comes in every day as one of our top employees on our glove line, assembly line. So it's just going back to that, just because we're visually impaired, life goes on, and we can still kick butt and be very productive people in society, loving people, parents, boyfriends, kids, mothers, dads, you name it, we can do it. And you guys have a lot to do with that. So finally, the third one is the city bus. Gonna sound crazy, but again, Indianapolis is not a very public transportation kind of city, kind of suburban. There's really no need to take the bus. You know, you can drive, but all of a sudden I can't drive. And again, the wife took me to and from work for about 6 months, and finally she's like, screw that, get your butt on the bus. So I started taking the bus. And again, I'm meeting great people and all these new people. Remember, my comedy routine is called Stories from the Bus. So started meeting all these great people. One of the great things about that cane, I call it the power of the cane, you get the great seats, get to sit up front. By the way, if you work it right, I'm a big Purdue basketball fan, you get a lower level for the cheap seats, just so you know. Anyway, I become friends with a lot of my bus drivers. One of them's name was Mike. Let me describe Mike to you a little bit. Again, I'm kind of this nerdy white guy from the suburbs. He's about 6'8", 6'9", 350-pound black guy who is self-proclaimed a little bit of a gangster. Clearly, we became really good friends. This is no joke. We became really good friends. And so we would debate everything because he's up front. He owns the bus, makes it clear. And we would debate things like race relations, money, politics, sex, religion, gun control. Gun control. He finds out I've never shot a gun before in my life. So all of a sudden he's like, you know what, Greg, this weekend we're going to the gun range. Okay, now I'm thinking blind, 45-ish, never shot a gun, gonna do it with my gangster bus driver. We went and did it. What the heck? We went and did it. So we get to the gun range, and all of a sudden he's super cool. You know, we're doing the whole thing, you know, the earphones, goggles, all that kind of thing. And you show me gun safety, and then he hands me the gun. Again, I've never even held a gun. All of a sudden I'm blind with a bus driver, pick it up. I'm like, dang, this thing is heavy. So I pull the trigger, I'm like, bang. Guys, I'm a man now. I'm a man. This is awesome. So I pull it up and just unload the gun. You know, bang, 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 bang. And I'm just sitting there, adrenaline's rushing, put the gun down. Mike pulls the target up to me. I look at Mike and I'm like, guys, no joke. I hit the target dead center with every shot for the first time ever shooting a gun. I look at Mike and I'm like, dude, I'm a natural at this. He kind of laughs and he goes, Greg, the target was 5 feet away. And with that, guys, I just want to again thank all of you out there who are so supportive to help me get through this. I know everybody else that have been affected. We couldn't have done it without you guys, and love you all to death for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. That was awesome. A lot of good laughs on that one for sure. And how awesome you got your man card after you went blind. You know, that's so awesome. And the fact that the target's 5 feet away, and
I lost my man card right after that. Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, you have to go back to the gun range, I guess. You know, maybe you can move that target 6 feet out, but We all can relate because, you know, you put that target any past, 2 feet or so, it's
That's it.
gone, right?
Right.
It's gone. So thank you so much. And we appreciate you thanking also our sighted supporters because they don't get thanked enough. That truly is, right, guys? They don't get thanked enough. Stick with us through thick and thin, bad blind days, all those good things. So thank you for bringing that up too. That's very special. And thank you to Emily for dragging you here, as you said. So I think this is the start of a whole new world for you in our community. So we're
Hope so.
thrilled that you guys came as well.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our last speaker, and that is Chris DiNicolo.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me to be on this. I'm here to talk about the joy of blind bird watching. We can still do it, y'all. No, seriously. I started. I didn't think that would work that way. Anyways, I started to become affected October of 2023. I went to my annual optometrist checkup, and she had told me the year previous that you might start seeing spots with the scotomas were just starting. She's like, you're getting into your 40s. So I take a road trip from Long Beach to where I live, Long Beach, California, to the Chicago area for my cousin's wedding about a week and a half later. And 2 hours into the drive, they call, oh, your new glasses are ready. And I was thinking I need new glasses. It's like, nah, I'm not gonna go back. I'll just keep going. It was either that night or the next night, I noticed that speed limit signs, the white is getting so bright that it's blurring out the text on it. So I get to my cousin's wedding a few days later. In between the reception and the service itself, I'm standing outside in the rain and snow calling my optometrist in Long Beach, like, can you send those out here? I'll still be out here for another week. Send them out. Driving back, not helping at all. I'm getting like these crazy halos and taillights driving through Arizona. And I get back to work. I worked for a stone brewing tap room in Pasadena for 7 years. I had to work with Excel spreadsheets a lot, and now it's even getting worse. Having to put the monitor on 800%. One of my coworkers says, well, maybe this is more than just a optometrist thing. Maybe it's a medical issue. Finally see an ophthalmologist end of December. He says, I can't see anything wrong. It could be blood pressure, which it's a good thing I got that checked because I was hypertensive at the time. The job was pretty stressful the last couple of years. But I get all that all figured out in a couple of weeks, but it's still getting worse. Eventually, with all the MRIs and all that, I go to UC Irvine early March, and the neuro-ophthalmologist says, well, I'm going to put you on like 18 more blood tests, but it could be this LHON. First time I've ever heard of it. So puts me through all the tests. About a week after that, my father passes away, which we weren't close for the last 15 years. It led to some extended family drama where they weren't letting my sister and I know if there's a will. So I'm trying to deal with all this and trying to contact a lawyer. But then my mom, who's sitting right over here, Lynn, lives in the Chicago area. She starts diving into like the Facebook groups. I finally get diagnosed early April. One other thing, when I stopped driving, I should have stopped driving 3 or 4 weeks previous. It was the first week of February. I ended up driving across train tracks in our metro area in LA. They don't have a gate, but this cop pulls me over 2 blocks later and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And I'm thinking, please don't give me a visual test. Please don't give me a visual test. And he's like, well, did you see the lights when you drove through the, it's like, no, didn't see them. It's like, it's a long day at work. And he takes my card, comes back, and he's like, all right, I just want to make sure you're fine. I think he thought I was trying to kill myself or something. And I was like, no, he's like, all right, well, just get home safe. And that's the last night I drove. But then I find out April 9th, never going to drive again. Few weeks later, my next car payment's coming up, and I'm like, this is killing me money-wise. I think he had hit radical acceptance the day it happened because I'm fairly pragmatic, but it still moves back and forth. It's not like not a linear thing. So this couple I've known for over 10 years, Derek and Tina, they're taking me to the CarMax to sell my car. And I can't remember which one asked me, so are any of your other senses heightened during this? I was like, what? It's like, well, my sense of despair is through the roof right now. Like, as a joke, I've always had you know, Gallo's melodramatic sense of humor in life is like, well, here you go, be melodramatic. But then 10 minutes later, I'm at the Bank of America because I had only got the car a year previous, so it was underwater financially, getting a cashier's check to pay for the rest of it. And I wasn't bawling, but there's like tears streaming down my face while the teller is like looking at the computer screen and all that. So it's like a 10-minute thing. Like one time you're joking around about it, 10 minutes later, you're just like, yeah, this really sucks. But while I'm still trying to figure out how to get on Facebook again and deal with accessibility stuff, you know, listen to my mom meet on Facebook. And for a few weeks, my mom's like, you know, there's this conference coming up in Cleveland. I think we should go. And eventually I was like, all right, I trust your judgment. And going to that 2 months after getting diagnosed was such a huge help for me. Like meeting after not knowing what this was. And then 2 minutes later, meeting everybody here who's like surviving and thriving with it. Lisa grabbed me and introduced me to the other Californians. Like Joey was super helpful. I had a great talk with Chris DiNicolo, who unfortunately couldn't be here because of a scheduling conflict. But we were talking at the hotel bar after the Saturday session, and we both think we had a decent sense of empathy before this happened, but we're thinking we're probably like better people after going through this because you realize how nice people actually are. And when you're going through something, you realize people will answer your call for help more than you would have assumed. Like it reminded me of this George Carlin bit I had heard 20 years ago, where if you get people in groups, he doesn't like them because they start conspiring against other people and plotting. I mean, this group excluded because we're all delightful, but people one-on-one he loved because no matter what, like politics or whatever, 99% of the people I've had to deal with since going through this, they're like, oh yeah, let me help you with this, please, let me. So everybody's been amazing. And then talking with Joey about being on the, she said, oh, be on the first Wednesday of the month LHON calls. They're really helpful, but for a while I was like the Wednesday night closer at the tap room. So eventually they put me on unpaid leave in September, which good thing about that, I've been on every call since then. And that's been amazing building the community for me. Like Lorenzo's always great on the calls. There's always 2 or 3 times on the calls where somebody's like, well, I can't do this anymore, or we can't do this. And one of us will be like, no, you actually can do that. Like, let me tell you how to do this on your phone or do that. So everybody's super helpful. And I do want to give some gratitude back to Tim, because I remember hearing him speak last year, and he had talked about, he had that moment of depression where he was just didn't know what he was going to do. And the day I got told that my work couldn't meet my accommodations and they were putting me on unpaid leave, like I hung up and broke down crying. I hadn't cried since the day after I got diagnosed and called my aunt to tell her the news. I'd had moments in between then where I'd be so frustrated with talkback where I'd get frustrated to the point of tears, but I hadn't like broken down crying or bawling since then. So it was about a month. I remember hearing Tim speak, and that was in my head like, well, so like that happens to me, I got to be cognizant of that. But no, still for a month, I just didn't know what to do. I mean, I still had to call doctors and all that with disability. I had stuff to do, but you just feel like you don't have an identity. I wasn't setting an alarm, wasn't just, finally after a month, I'm like, I need to at least like set an alarm and do something. And so keep rearranging my apartment. I found like some sort of purpose. I'm working with the Department of Rehab, going back to school hopefully soon. Yeah, and one of the things I'm also focusing on too is I had a therapist back in Illinois about 15 years ago. I was trying to move back to Southern California because I never got used to the cold out there out in Illinois. But I would get these depressive moments a lot of times in my 20s where something bad would happen, or I'd have like seasonal affective disorder, and it would just consume me for like weeks or months on end. And I'd be taking like a step or 2 forward to move, and then that would put me like 3 or 4 steps back. But what she had taught me was, well, once you're in that moment, like own that moment, like know you're in that moment, and like just keep your head above water. And I've had that weekends like that since this has happened. I still have times like that where the weight of this hits me and you get that physical kind of depression that weighs on you. But you just got to own it because it's it's a totally valid feeling to feel that way, like going through this. It's a life-changing, diagnosis. And can't remember who had said, it was either John or Julie at the fireside chat yesterday. It's like, man, give yourself some grace. Because like before, I would always, everybody else could make a mistake but me. I would always be the hardest on myself. But man, you can't do that anymore, because now you're going to make plenty of mistakes. You're going to do that, but you got to just like own it and be like, yeah, that's fine. But you got to get past it. You got to, so much trial and error during this. And it's been great. But I think owning that's been big. And then I think I've always had a good sense of being pragmatic. I remember my manager, right when the pandemic was lifting, he had to go on his paternity leave. So I had to take over operations. So he told his boss, he's like, Chris is like a goldfish. Put a goldfish in a bowl, it'll be that size. You put a goldfish in a river, and it's going to get bigger. So his boss was like, you think Chris is going to think that's a fat joke? And no, I got it. So I ended up, he was on paternity leave, so I ended up getting his newborn son a stuffed goldfish. So, but that's one of the things I'm holding on to now too, is you're thinking about it. It's like, yeah, no matter what situation you're in with what LHON's doing, it's, adapting is, we're all doing a great job of adapting with this. And I guess one other thing I've been thinking about is being like less self-conscious is being more self-conscious in a way where you can't worry about what other people are thinking. Like, you just have to do what you have to do. Like, I started using a cane in March, mainly so I can get that O&M training out of my way, so I could get the guide dog process started. But no, I use the cane 95% of the time outside. I'm outside. Like, somebody could look at me like I'm weird, but are they gonna guide me across the street? No. I want to make sure I'm not going to get hit by somebody on an e-scooter or a bike or anything like that. I still am somewhat self-conscious, though. I got the Meta Ray-Bans, which has been super helpful. So usually I'd go to the grocery store, I'd fold up the cane, put it in the cart, ask the glasses what I'm looking at. So the last couple times, I will put the cane in my back pocket, so there's less chance of somebody looking at me and thinking, why is that man talking to the hummus? So I'm glad that Meta is having the ads now where they're showing people talking to the glasses. So it's been a lot easier. So in that sense too, I would say, hypothetically, if you're ever in Long Beach on the corner of Magnolia and Anaheim, and you're at Pancho's Taco Truck, which is amazing, hypothetically, and you go there and they have the condiment bar outside with the cucumbers, cilantro and onions, the peppers, and they have the avocado salsa, chili verde salsa, again, hypothetically, and they have the little plastic cups to put the salsa in, and you get home, and because of your fear of not overfilling the cups, you barely got any salsa in those cups, and you are very disappointed. So again, hypothetically, say Tuesday of last week, you're back at Pancho's Taco Truck, and you're filling and this time you're taking those cups and you're putting them about 2 inches from your eye to make sure you get those filled. And people are looking at you kind of weird. But the thing is, you got to get that salsa. You want to make sure you're not at home disappointed. Got to get that salsa. So I will say that as my closing note to everybody here. Don't worry about what other people think. Like, you are your own advocate. So get that salsa.
Right on, Chris. I love ending on the note of get that salsa. Get that salsa. That is going to become a theme somewhere. Trust me. But isn't that the truth? The self-consciousness part is, it's so difficult in the beginning, with the cane or holding your phone up to your face or putting the salsa cup up to your face, and you're thinking like, what is people going to think? When looking through your iPad at your kid on a field, what are other people going to think? But that does go away after a while. You're like, you know what? This is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. So what? It's what's going to make me more productive, efficient, and allow me my independence out and about, and to get your salsa, So I love that story. Chris, thanks for sharing all of that. You got more tips?
Oh, did I forget something? Did I tell you something that I forgot about? Any more tips? Well, I know if you're looking for somebody with a lot of tips, Joey has a lot of cane tips, some marshmallows, some rollers,
Those kind of tips.
Yeah, if
We
you-
got
if-
those kind of tips. Yeah, yeah.
if you want a tip, don't be greedy. Be kind to one another. This popped into my head earlier today. Where two eyes may not work anymore, but there are two eyes in living. So keep on living.
Oh,
go.
good one. Good one. Yes,
So-
yes. Well, it's been fun getting to know Chris. He's got a really good sense of humor. He texted me like 2 days before conference, says, "Are pyrotechnics allowed?" And I was like, "Oh, what?" And I said, "No, only fog machines and lasers." So you didn't pull those out. So I guess
Yeah,
we're
well,
good. We're good.
No smoke, no.
Yeah, the whole smoke thing. So yeah. So thank you all for your stories, for your willingness to share and be open about your journeys, your stories, where you've been, where you are now. They are truly, truly, truly the most amazing stories, and people today and in the future, because you're going to live on YouTube, will absolutely be grateful for your stories, because it's going to help someone down the line. And somebody's going to know that they're okay and not alone. And what they're going through is exactly what you've gone through. And they're going to be better for that. And they're going to be able to live another day, as some of you have said. So please, can we give a big round of applause for another wonderful session? So if we do have time for some questions, And if you wouldn't mind, if we have mic runners going, you can just let us know if you're headed to a question. So we're not all up here thinking, is there anyone out there? Anyone? So do we have any questions? You can ask an individual or ask all of them, whatever you want to do.
We got one coming.
Okay?
Hey, good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jason Calhoun. And question I have for the panel and or anyone in the room is what discussions are being had about personal security? My wife and I live in an urban area, and it's always a concern of mine about safety with regards to being a target and seeing as someone as being weak or someone that could be easily robbed. Like, what are your thoughts, or what are you doing about that?
Okay. Oh. Well, Greg knows how to shoot a gun now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But you know,
I'll leave that to anyone on the panel that'd like
Well,
to answer that.
yeah, Emily and I were just talking about that last night, walking, because we went to the little spaghetti factory. There hadn't been a casino across the street, so we went over there. And she was like, when you have a cane, everybody just leaves you alone. And I'm like, well, you also look the other way around. You're also much more vulnerable. But I'll have to admit, when I do have my cane, I'm walking around, I feel like people show me more respect.
Yep.
And they kind of, it's almost like you have a little bit of a force field around you.
Mhm.
So that's just how I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I live in downtown Long Beach, which I love. I hope to never leave Long Beach, but yeah, it can be kind of sketchy sometimes. But I tend to, I guess this is with that talk I referenced talking to Chris Lawton last year. It's like I have more faith in humanity now than I did previous to this. Like the first day I used my cane by myself back in March, I walked to this local brewery, and twice on the way there, people at the crosswalk are like, "Oh wait, okay, now you can go." And that happened again, like once on the way back, and like a half-hour round trip walk. So it's like you can worry about that. I mean, I'm not saying it's a valid concern, but yeah, I think on the whole, individual people are nicer than not. So I keep it in the back of your mind, but I'm not like walking scared, basically.
Yeah.
Other than the drivers around me, they're idiots. So.
Yeah, the drivers. Yeah, yeah. It's a valid thought for sure. And it's probably something we should probably bring up in another discussion, maybe on a monthly call or one of our calls that we do all year long. But
Could
I
a
think,
cattle prod be a tip for a cane? Like that?
yeah, a taser at the
Yeah.
end of your cane. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. But I kind of agree. It's in the beginning, I used to get really scared walking around with my cane. But then after a while, I just personally, I don't put myself in position of where I'm going to feel scared. Like I'm not going to walk downtown San Diego, where I'm from, at night by myself with a cane. I'm just not going to do it. So that's one of the ways you can avoid it, I guess. But I think that's a really good topic, and maybe we can bring that up on a monthly call in the future. Thank you. Anyone else?
This is Kevin. Great presentation and great story and life journey. I guess I'm just curious, what's one wisdom or insight that you guys have now that you wish you knew day one?
Ask for
Okay.
help.
Yep.
That's for help. Good one. Good one.
Yeah, I was talking with Lissa earlier, and I get this from my mom about being very independent. And it was always when I'd be a manager, either in the service industry or retail, one of the areas for improvement I had was delegation. Like I would never think I'd try and handle everything. And we're at this point where it's like, you don't have a choice but to ask for help and put trust in other people. And like I said, I'm finding out it's working great. So yeah, rely on other people. You know, if you have a great support system like I do, that's one of the things that's keeping me through this. But yeah, trust other people more.
Yeah. Jennifer or Tim?
I would say that you're going to be okay, that everything's going to be okay, and that things have a way of working out. And even in my darkest time, I I kind of didn't isolate myself. I think it's important not to isolate yourself, and yes, ask for help, or have people around you that will support you, the right people. And I think that not isolating yourself and actually connecting with people that in the community, in the Vision Rehab, I joined a support group, and that was really very helpful, because you get to speak with other people, and none of them had LHON, but they were all visually impaired. But just having that connection with people and sharing stories in a private setting, everybody became open and more vulnerable, and you can relate. So being around people that can relate to what you're going through your challenges, it's very helpful.
Yeah, I would chip away at things. I mean, there's so many books and things about 1% gains and small wins, and that's just what has things that you might get things slower than you used to. But I just started chipping away at things, but then just being honest with other people. If anyone's coming to ask me how things are going, I've told so many several people, I'm not good at technology right now. I'm not good at my computer right now, like because I want to hear what other people are good at. I want to pick someone's brain and hear what they're doing. Tell on myself on what whether it's mental, physical, emotional, et cetera. So just being honest, and if you can't drive to go see someone, controversial, pick up the phone and call someone. Like how many people love calling people to say hello? It's very difficult, but it is one of the most powerful things someone told me to do. So try it out.
I'm going to throw one in too. And if you need to talk to a therapist before you learn how to use a cane or learn how to use your phone or learn how to do anything, that's okay too. If you have to get your head wrapped around this whole thing first, do that. It's okay. And be sure, go that direction if you need to, because learning to use a cane and where to put bump dots and going to, voc rehab, those will all still be there. But if you're mentally not ready, none of it's going to work. So getting mental help first is totally okay.
And I do want to say too, like support groups were just mentioned. And I brought up the first Wednesday of the month, LHON live calls, but there's so many other categories for the LHON. Like I'm usually on the employment call or the assistive tech call, and those are, every one of them is great to be on, just to talk to other people. That is this community right here, just to talk to other people, and the tangents that we go on too, where somebody will bring up like putting ketchup on toast or like that. And then then they go on for like the first hour is recorded, but they go on for, there's another half hour unrecorded after it. But it's just a good place every couple weeks to talk to other people who have it. The fellowship is amazing.
Yeah, not everyone can make it to a conference in person, but being able to get on those Zoom calls throughout the year is the next best thing. So if you're, they talked about those yesterday in the community update, but we don't even pay Chris to say all these great things about our Zoom calls. But he promotes our conference on every call, and I just go, I'll Venmo you later. So
I know my value now.
You're good. You're good. So we probably have time.
He does
time-
talk to the hummus though, so watch out.
Yeah, he does talk to hummus, and
That's right. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
it's awesome. No, it's awesome. He's you've been more and more involved on all these calls, and it's been wonderful. And it is a really good opportunity to jump into the community. And of course, coming to conferences, nothing like it, as you all have probably discovered being here for the last couple of days. So we have time for one more question if there is one more. And then of course you can catch these people later today at the Red Bar. Anyway, just saying. Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Matt Spinnenberg. Just want to say thanks, Tim, Jennifer, Craig, and Chris. This is mostly a comment. When each of you spoke, I felt it. I felt the experience. I've been there. And I just want to say to the rest of you, I hope you felt it too. Like the experience you went through did the same thing. All 4 of you. You know, I could feel it in Tim when he was about to cry. You know, we all felt that kind of thing. We're all probably still feeling it too. Thanks for joining the conference to speak about your experience to us all, and it feels good to hear it.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for saying that. And that is exactly why I will always do this panel. Every conference, I will always do it because it's very important, not only live, but it's very important for the recordings are out there for people who have still yet to hear, unfortunately, those words, labor hereditary optic neuropathy. They will find these recordings and they will know they're not alone. So we will continue on with these panels, and thank you everybody for being here and for being such gracious attendees and asking such wonderful questions and for giving your thank yous to our panelists this year. Thank you.